Hi there! Thank you for checking out my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. This video is part of the series of videos I post to try to help people out when it comes to aptitude tests like the civil service exam, UPCAT, LAE, FieldSet, and all of those things. First of all, I want to thank Mami Marita. Again, thank you po so much for this top. I'm wearing this right now. Salamat po sa inyong regalo sa akin. And I have something new to wear. So, today we're going to talk about math. This is part of our Math Mondays series, and today we're going to talk about something that's really important and something na sana ma-master ninyo right away. If you have a copy of the workbook right here, nandito rin siya, so you can turn to page 12. Now, if you don't have a copy of the workbook yet and you want one, don't forget to message me, www.facebook.com/Team Lyqa, to find out how you can get your own copy. Alright, so I'd love to hear back from you. If this is the first video that you're watching from this channel and you want more, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the bell icon para ma-notify kayo as soon as meron ng bagong video. Alright, now let's dive into this. Today we're going to talk about forming equations. This is really important kasi one thing na realize ko when I started making videos like this is that not everyone knows how to deal with sentences, okay? Paano ba i-convert yung mga sentences into actual equations so we can start solving them, okay? So when it comes to word problems, kasi ang problema, I call this the greatest equalizer kasi yung word problems, kapag magaling ka sa English, you would understand it but you don't know how to solve it. But if you magaling ka sa math, kahit na sobrang galing mo sa math, kung hindi mo naiintindihan yung tanong or hindi mo alam kung paano i-translate yung sentence into a word problem, you would have a hard time actually solving it. So I'm going to give you a bunch of examples and I'm also going to give you a quick quiz at the end, so don't forget to stay hanggang sa dulo. I'll see you in a bit so I can explain better. I'm going to switch over to my PC now.
Alright, so today we're going to talk about equation construction. This is my video on how you can form yung mga equations from sentences na nandun sa problems. I know that a lot of people struggle with that, no, yung translation part, so I figured we should talk about it. Alright, so if you have a copy of the workbook, it would be best if you have it open so you can walk through with me dito sa ating discussion. Okay, so there should be a table like this sa inyong workbook if you have one. And you can see right here dun sa first column yung operations. Ibig sabihin ito yung mga gagawin mo whether you're going to add, subtract, divide, or anything doon sa iyong equation. Yung words naman na column, nandyan yung mga common na ginagamit to signify na yun yung gagawin mo sa operation na yun. Now, just to make it really clear, there are certain words na hindi ko included dito sa table na ito. Minsan creative talaga yung mga people in writing down their operations. Pero ito yung mga common na ginagamit. Kaya sila yung nilagay ko dyan. Okay? And then on the right side here, yung equation, blank yan kasi that's what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to give you yung mga equations. Basically, ko-convert natin yung words into an equation using yung knowledge natin of those words and yung operations na sinisignify nila. Okay? So, yung first column right here, it says addition. Ang words niya, itong mga to, A plus B, A and B, the sum of A and B, the total of A and B. A and B combined, A and B together, A added to B, and A increased by B. All of those mean A plus B. Okay? So, ibig sabihin nun, pag sinulat mo yan, yan na A plus B. There are other phrases, no? Like yung A more than B, it actually means the same. So, if you see A more than B, it means A plus B. Okay? Now, the thing with addition din is, if hindi nyo pa napapanood yung aking video on the properties ng addition and multiplication, reversible or pwede mong baliktarin yung addition. Pwede rin siyang B plus A. Okay? It really doesn't matter. Kasi, kunyari, di ba, if you assign a value to them, 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 plus 2 is still 5. So, pwede siyang baliktarin. Things are going to be harder pagdating sa subtraction, kasi ang subtraction, nagpapalit na siya ng ibig sabihin. O nagpapalit siya ng nagiging sagot. For example, ang 3 minus 2 is 1, pero ang 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And pagdating sa ating mga problems, it's very important that we discuss that kasi malaki ang magiging difference sa sagot, lalo na if mahaba ang equation kung hindi mo siya nabaliktad. So, we have to talk about it. Kaya may demarcation line dyan, merong division, kasi yung isa, diretso yung isa baliktad. The key is knowing kung alin yung diretso and alin yung baliktad. And in teaching this exclusively sa live review events and sa online review program for a long time, ang dami kong nakikitang responses ng people na hindi daw naiturutot sa kanila when they were still in school. And I understand that kasi actually hindi rin ito binigay sa amin in this table format when I was studying. You just kind of figure it out as you go along. Pero hindi siya talaga masyadong discuss. So, kung hindi niyo siya na-discuss, that's okay. That's the entire point of us talking about this. Para pagdating sa exam, hindi na kayo magkakamali. Okay? So, subtraction tayo A minus B and A decreased by B. When you see the words minus or decreased by, ang magiging equation niyan ay like this, A minus B. Diretso yan. Okay? Dito may distinction. Kasi kapag A taken from B, A subtracted from B, and A less than B, anything na ganyan, baliktad na siya. B minus A na siya. So again, malaking difference yan. It would spell the answer as to whether negative or positive yung answer mo and ma-affect niya yung final answer. So, very important for you to remember na kapag minus or decreased by, diretso siya, and anything else is baliktad. I ask my students all the time to just memorize yung minus tsaka decreased by. Kasi yun yung diretso. And then the rest, just remember na anything else is baliktad. Okay? So remember this part. Multiplication A times B and the product of A and B, that is just A times B. Or minsan ang nakalagay na symbol is yung dot A dot B. Okay? Multiplication siya. We have the division right here. Ito naman the quotient of A and B, A divided by B, and A split by B. Lahat yan is A divided by B, or since it's the same, okay, you can also write it as A over B, fraction form. Kasi ang fraction basically means division. So, ang 1/3 is, ang value niya is 1 divided by 3. Di ba pag kina-convert din natin siya into decimals, yun din ginagawa natin. So, it's the same. Exponents naman, A squared looks like this. A cubed looks like this kasi yun yung kanyang exponent. And then yung A to the power of B and A raised to B is the same. A raised to B. So if you see any number, kaya 2 raised to 3, that is 2, tapos ang exponent niya is 3. Okay? So again, remember the keywords na meron tayo dyan. Radicals, square root of A looks like this. Okay? And ang cube root of B looks like this. Yan. Importante yung 3 na yan kasi ang ibig sabihin yan, 3 of the same number ang kailangan para mailabas mo dun sa payong. And I discussed that dun sa series natin on radicals. So if you haven't seen that yet, panoorin nyo na lang. Okay? Parenthesis means the quantity. And this is very important. This is very important. Ang konyo, nakakainis. Anyway, this is very important sa discussion kasi yung PEMDAS, okay, which is yung order of operations natin, which I already discussed in an older video. Ang P stands for parenthesis. So, if you don't know how to draw the parenthesis, mag-iiba siya ng sagot. Okay? Kasi ang unahin mo would be multiplication and division. So, it's very important to know kung saan magdodrawing yung parenthesis. And if you see the quantity, kung nasaan yung the quantity, yung mga sumunod sa kanya, yun ang ilalagay mo sa loob ng parenthesis. So, the operation directly following yung the quantity, siya yung ipapasok mo sa parenthesis. Okay? So, remember, pag mayroong the quantity, parenthesis yon. Equals naman, if you see is, are, was, were sa isang equation, that is yung equals mo. In cases of problems na kagaya ng each problems na merong time frame or time period, minsan sa investment problems may ganun din. Meron ka ring will be. Okay? So, that is also a possibility. Equals din yan. Okay, and when you know that, in looking at worded equation, ibig sabihin yung sentence form, you would spot right away kung saan mo ilalagay yung mga equals by seeing kung nasan yung is, are, was, were, and will be. Okay? So, let me just dive deeper pa dun. Ang ultimate keyword is is. Okay? So, if you find is anywhere in the equation, that is where your equals sign would be. So, is equal to equal. Madali lang tandaan kasi umuulit. Is equal to equal. Pag nakita ka ng is, equal siya. So, if you see an example like this, ito 11 more than x is 5 divided by y. If you're trying to convert it into an equation, it will look like this. So, 11 more than x. Ang more than is addition, like we said kanina. So, that would be 11 plus x is, which is equals, 5 divided by y. And then you have your equation. And the more you practice dito, pabilis kayo ng pabilis na darating sa point na hindi nyo na kailangang isipin, sinusulat mo na lang diretso yung equation just by looking at the sentence. Okay, when I started teaching actually, that was how I thought everyone knew kung paano mag-solve. So, basta sulat lang ako na sulat. And then, one of my students then at the time raised her hand and bravely said na, parang sabi sa akin, anak, paano nangyari yun? Paano mo kinuha yung equation? Kasi hindi yata nila ma-figure out kung saan nanggaling. And ang susi nun is here in the translation, okay? Dito sa transformation ng equation. So again, practice is key. Okay? Lalo na kung hindi pa natural sa inyo. So let's try another one here. Sabi, the product of x and 5 is 3 less than y. So isulat natin. The product of, ang key here when you see a sentence like this, product, ang operation yan is multiplication. And ilalagay mo siya kung nasaan yung kasunod na end. Okay? So x times 5, diyan mo siya ilalagay. Okay? So, the product of x and 5. Kasi may nagtanong din sa akin noon, saan ko lalagay yung multiplication? Lalagay nyo siya kung nasan yung end. Off provides you the direction. So, pag ganun siya. Okay? X times 5 is, so, equals yun, 3 less than y. So, ang less than is subtraction. Next question would be, what should I do? Ito ba ay 3 minus y o y minus 3? And again, you have to be very careful with this, lalo na kung hindi to automatic sa inyo. Kapag hindi siya minus or decreased by, baliktad siya. Okay? So, dahil hindi siya minus, hindi siya decreased by, it should be y minus 3. So, it should look like that. Kung ang sagot nyo ay 3 minus y, that is wrong kasi again, less than siya. Hindi siya minus or decreased by. So, dapat baliktarin nyo pa siya. Okay? So, again, very important skill. Kung naranasan nyo na yung nag-solve kayo ng pagkahaba-haba equation sa exam, tapos biglang yung sagot ninyo wala pala dun sa options, okay, i-like nyo na lang yung video or comment below. Baka nakaka-relate kayo. Nangyayari yan usually because mali tayo ng translation ng equation. Okay? So let's try. All right, let's see if you can figure this out, okay? I'm going to give you a sample question right here. 7 added to the product of 10 and 9. And then I have 4 more questions right here and I'm going to ask you to try it out for yourself, okay? Ito, demonstrate ko muna. So 7 added to is addition. Product is multiplication at ilalagay natin siya sa end. So dito natin siya lalagay, 10 times 9. So equation natin is 7 plus 10 times 9, and since PEMDAS applies here, mauuna yung multiplication bago addition. So you'll start with this side first. 10 times 9 is 90 plus 7. So the answer here is 97. And then I'm going to give you 4 questions sa baba. And I'm going to give you times. Siguro I'm going to give you 4 minutes to answer all 4. And then we're going to check it together, okay? Are you ready? Okay, your timer starts now. Alright, so you have 10 minus 6 plus 10. 10 taken from 6 plus 10. And 20 minus 12 divided by 4, plus the quantity 20 minus 12 divided by 4. So if you notice, magkakahawig yung mga questions, no? Pero very different sila pagdating sa solution. Kaya nga very important for you to master yung equation construction natin. Kasi let's start with this one, no? 10 minus 6 plus 10. So isusulat ko siya, that is 10 minus 6 plus 10. Okay? And then, from here, I can just solve it right away. So, 10 minus 6 is 4, plus 10 is 14. No problem. Dito, magkakaroon tayo ng onting problema kasi 10 taken from 6 plus 10 siya. So, yung taken from, subtraction din yan. Kaya lang, since taken from siya, baliktad siya dapat, mauna yung 6. So, this becomes 6 minus 10 plus 10. Okay? So, the answer would be 6 minus 10 is negative 4 plus 10, that would be 6. So, if you notice, ang pinagkaiba lang na part are these parts, pero yung sagot magkaiba. Iba yung 14 sa 6. That is how important it is for you to know kung alin ang mauuna sa subtraction. Okay? Ito namang 4 and 5, magkahawig lang sila maliban doon sa the quantity, no? So, number 4, 20 minus 12 divided by 4, that is 20 minus 12 divided by 4. And since PEMDAS rule applies, you start with this side kasi division muna bago subtraction. So you have 12 divided by 4, which is going to give you 3. And then you have 20 minus 3, which is going to give you 17. 17 ang final answer dito. And now again, here, magkahawig, right? Nidagdagan ko lang itong dalawang words na to, the quantity. So, 20 minus 12 divided by 4. Kaya lang yung may the quantity na nakalagay, ang ibig sabihin, the quantity, 20 minus 12, siya yung madidivide mo sa 4. So, anong pinagkaiba niya dito sa dalawang ito? Ang pinagkaiba niya is that instead of starting out with the division part, which is 12 divided by 4, dahil naglagay ka ng the quantity 20 minus 12, itong side na to ang una mong isosolve. So, 20 minus 12 is 8. Divided by 4, that is going to give you just 2. So if you notice again, 2 and 17 are very different. 6 and 14 are very different. So you have to know at dapat mong isulat ng buo yung equation. Okay? It could spell the difference between you getting the right answer and hindi. Pagdating sa exam, kung mga asar yung gumawa ng exam, ilalagay niya pati yung mga maling options dyan. And if you have a copy of the test booklets, yung practice test booklets that I made, ganun din ang ginagawa ko dyan. Sinusubukan ko yung saan ba sila posibleng magkamali. Tapos nilalagay ko lahat ng mga options na yun. So you feel confident kasi nandun yung sagot mo, yun pala mali. So again, practice, practice, practice. Alright? Now, there is another format ng tanong which looks like this, which possibly could appear sa exam. Lumalabas kasi siya talaga. Yung twice y taken from the quantity x squared added to 12 can be written as. So, basically, translate mo lang siya. Hindi mo naman isosolve, pero translate mo siya. So, how do you do that? Again, kung alam mo yung rules, madali lang yan. Twice y is 2y. Tapos, taken from, which is baliktad siya. So, dapat nandun siya sa kabilang side. Taken from the quantity, so parenthesis, x squared added to 12. Yan. So, ito, tsaka to, pagbabalik-tarin ko kasi taken from siya. So, the answer should look like this. So, x squared plus 12 minus 2y. Okay? Ngayon, tingnan natin yung options. If you see sa options, walang ganitong itsura, no? Walang ganito. But, meron ka dito nakalagay. 12 plus x squared minus 2y. Naka-parenthesis din siya. So, the answer would be letter D. Bakit? Kasi, kahit na pagbalik-tarin mo to, pareho lang yan. X squared plus 12, pareho lang yan sa 12 plus x squared, like I explained kanina. Okay? Kasi may commutative property ang addition. Kahit pagbalik-tarin mo sila, it's still the same. All of these kasi mali, kasi baliktad siya eh. Dapat mauuna yung x squared sa 2y. Ito naman, kasi pag nilabas ko yung squared sa parenthesis, okay, ang mangyayari is, okay, i-distribute ko yan sa kanilang dalawa. So, magiging 12 times 12, tsaka x times x yan. Hindi siya magiging the same. Okay? So, kailangan mo na siya i-add pareho. May iiba siya. So, the answer should be letter D. Okay? So, again, you have to be very careful. Now, alright, so let's start dito sa ating quick quiz sa equation construction. I have two questions right here na magagamit ninyo yung skills na tinuro ko sa inyo about constructing your own equation. And I'm going to give you 3 minutes for them. The other one is going to be tricky kasi word problem siya actually. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes for that question. Alright, so let's start now. All right, let's start with this one. Okay, first, yung number 1 natin, simplify this expression. 12 added to a third of x is 32. So, let's see. Susulat muna natin siya. No? So, 12 added to is 12 plus. A third is 1/3. That is a fraction. So, a third of... So, of is multiplication like nandun sa table natin. X equals 32. So, ito yung equation natin. 12 plus 1/3 times x equals 32. And since PEMDAS applies, ito muna ang side na ito mauna. So, you have 12 plus 1/3 times x. So, pag nag-multiply ka ng fractions, di ba, wala kang pakialam, basta tapat-tapat lang siya. So, that is x minus, magiging x over 3 siya. Is equal to 32. You can move this dun sa kabilang side. Equalities lang to. So, kung hindi nyo pa naintindihan to, panoorin nyo na lang yung video ko on equalities, no? X over 3 is equal to 32. And then, dahil nilipat mo siya sa kabilang side, that would be minus. So, minus 12. So, magiging x over 3 is equal to 20. And dahil meron pa siyang divided by na part dyan, para ma-cancel yan, i-multiply mo both sides by 3. So, x over 3 times 3 would be, magiging x na lang yan, is equal to 20 times 3, which is going to give you 60. So, the answer here is 60, letter C. Okay? So I hope you got that right. Again, nasa translation ng key dyan. So a third, a half, a quarter, that is what you need to know. Okay? Next. Now, this question right here is going to give you a bit of a problem kung hindi kayo marunong mag-translate. Pero kung marunong kayo mag-translate ng equations, kayang-kaya niyo yan. Okay? At the very least, kayang hulaan. Let me demonstrate. So, sabi niya, the sum of two numbers is 73. So, alam mo na yung two numbers mo, kunyari A plus B is 73. Now, if the bigger number, okay, tawagin natin bigger number si B. So, bigger number, si A magiging si smaller number. So, if the bigger number, which is Bn, is, again, yung word na is, which means equals, 4 more than twice, so 2 times, the smaller number. Ang hinahanap, what is the smaller number? Okay? So, again, anong ginawa ko lang dito? Tinranslate ko lang yung sentence na ito. Ito yan. At yung sentence na, equation na to, yan yung sentence na yan. Okay? The bigger number is equal to 4 plus 2 times the smaller number. So, of course, naka-parenthesis yan. And what you do with equations is basically substitute it there. Okay? So, etong Bn, kung yan ang Bn, okay, pwede kong ipalit siya sa pwesto nung Bn dito sa equation na nauna. So, that would look like this. The smaller number, or kung gusto nating tawagin tong x or y, it's just the same concept. Nilagay ko lang smaller number Sn para lang mas madali sa inyo tingnan. Smaller number plus the bigger number, which is, ang mangyayari, magiging ano na lang siya, 4 plus, and then 2 times Sn, okay, equals 73. And then this becomes your equation. So, kung gusto mo tawaging x yung smaller number, di ba yung nilalagay natin minsan, di ba yung tinuro ng teacher, let x be the smaller number. Kung naalala nyo pa to, yan ang dahilan yan. Okay? So, but you can call it anything. Call it A, call it Y, call it B, whatever you want. So, kunyari gawin natin siyang x, i-rewrite ko lang yung equation natin na 4 plus, and then you have 2x equals 73. And then you can just solve it down. But either way, kahit nga hindi mo palitan yung letters, pareho lang din yung magiging ending niyan. So, x plus, and then you have 4 plus 2x, right? Pero since ano naman yan, addition lang yan, hindi na nagmamatter that much. Iko-combine lang natin yung like terms or yung kung sino ang may magkakapilido pag sasama-samahin mo. And since meron kang x dito, or 1x yan, at 2x dito, that would be 3x plus 4 is equal to 73. At ililipat natin yung 4 sa kabilang side para mawala siya. So, maiwan ang x sa kabilang side. Like I told you guys, discussion on equalities, iwanan nyo yung x nyo sa isang side. The x should always be left behind. Okay? So, x nyo na siya, iwanan nyo na siya. 3x is equal to 73 minus 4. Ito, I'm just doing this for visual reference. 3x is equal to, this will become 69. So, i-divide mo both sides by 3 para makancel ito. X is equal to 69 divided by 3, which is going to give you 23. So, the answer would be letter B. The smaller number is 23. So, kung gusto nyo i-check, pwede nyo i-substitute, no? Kung ang smaller number mo is 23, plus, ang bigger number mo magiging 4 plus twice it. So, ang times 2 nito ay 46, plus 4 is 50. Equal ba siya sa 73? Yes. So, the answer is correct. The smaller number is 23, and the bigger number, if yun ang tinatanong, would be 50. So, again, kung alam niyo yung equation construction, yun ang basic na bones or yun ang basic na foundation nyo for any algebra-related na word problem. Whether it be like this or sa age problems, yun ang susi. So, you really have to practice. Okay? Kung may workbook kayo, make sure that you answer your exercise.
Alright, I hope you learned something today. If you did, click thumbs up. Make sure that you share this video with your friends, lalo na kung mag-exam din sila para mas marami tayong matulungan. And if you're not yet part of Team Lyqa, go ahead and visit our page. And you can also join the review group on Facebook para mas ma-practice pa kayo regarding this. Okay? If you have a copy of the workbook, don't forget then to answer the exercises on page 13, okay? May mga exercises dyan on translating word problems into equations that you can work on para mas matandaan nyo itong lesson na ito. Okay? So, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe. Kayo nang bahala para hindi kayo makamiss ng any other lesson. I make new video lessons at least once or twice a week. So, thank you guys. Aja, kaya nyo yan, never stop learning, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.